Do you struggle with adding background patterns, designs, or textures to your card fronts? Hi, this is Kelly, and I'm from Kelly's Crafts, and I'm an independent Stamp It Up demonstrator based out of the San Francisco Bay Area in California. And I am here to teach you 6 ways to add texture and patterns to your card fronts if you don't have pattern paper, embossing folders, embossing machines in your craft stash. So let me start with these examples of background textures. These are all using an embossing folder. As you can see, it gives a really nice texture in the background. Very, very simple, very, you don't really notice it, but it's just enough to make it a pretty card. Now this one you would notice, but this one has a nice flowery embossing to it. And it just simply says congratulations. This could simply be a wedding card, perhaps an anniversary card. This one here is a Christmassy themed one. It's got a little bit of brick embossing to the background. You see how it just adds just a little bit of pop just by adding a little bit of that texture. Here's one that kind of reminds me of the outside of a house. I forget what that stuff is called. But you know, it's just a little bit of texture that just kind of adds a little bit of something to your card. So let's get started. The first example that I'm going to give you is tone-on-tone stamping. And what I've done here is I've chosen some pattern paper, but I didn't want my whole card back to just be full of pattern. I didn't want that much. So I wanted to break it up by adding some plain cardstock next to it in a coordinating color. So what I've done is I've picked out real red, which matches the real red in my Christmas stocking. And what I'm going to do is on this piece of cardstock, I'm going to be doing some color on color stamping. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to give myself a piece of scratch paper in the background. I'm going to bring in a couple of stamps that I want to use for my pattern. I'm going to use some real red ink so that it coordinates with the cardstock that I'm using. And then I'm just going to start stamping. Let me put this on this side. Now I want my first stamp to be kind of the focal stocking. So I'm just going to put that kind of in the middle off to the side. And then I'm going to turn my block and I put this right about there. Now you'll see the reason why I have some scratch paper back there. And then let's take this one, have it coming down from here to another one where we just have it just poking in over here. And then let's say this one coming off the bottom. There we go. I'm going to take my stamp. I'm going to use my chamois. I'm going to wipe off my stamp. If you don't have a chamois, you are really missing out. This is really great. It takes the ink off of your stamp in a jiffy, and you just use it over and over and over and over. This thing is probably 4 years old, and all I do is maybe once a month is go take it and rinse it out and start all over again. It's still going to be a little bit stained, but you just spritz it with some water. See, this part right here is just damp, and I usually try to let this dry out in between times when I'm not going to be stamping, because you don't want your chamois to start smelling. So I've cleaned off that stamp. I'm going to take this candy cane. I'm just going to put a few candy canes kind of in between where some of the spaces are. I'll put one there, put one there, put one right about there, and I'll have the end of one coming in about there. And I think I'm going to add another one right here. Okay. Clean off my stamp again. Nice and clean. I'm going to set those aside. Close up my ink so I don't get my hands in it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this. As you can see, this is now going to be what my card will look like. It's going to look something like this. There's two ways, I should have told you, there's two ways that you can do this. You can ink up your stamp. You can stamp directly on like I did. If you want that a little bit more subtle, you can ink up your stamp. You can stamp onto your scratch paper one time and then stamp on here. That way it's a little bit lighter. So if you want a more subtle edge like this, then you can do what is called second generation stamping. So I'm going to take my card base and I'm just simply going to adhere these pieces down. I've made this one a little bit wider than I need because I don't want to have to try and glue these down and match up these edges. What I want to do is adhere that one down to the left side, adhere this one to the right side, and they can overlap a little bit and nobody is going to know the difference. So I'm going to start with some liquid glue and I'm going to put this on my cardstock. I just try to make sure that each of the four corners at least have some, and then anywhere in between. I'm going to take this, I'm going to line it up right with the left edge of my cardstock. There we go. Since this is designer paper, it's a little bit thinner than your cardstock, so I like to use a tape runner. Again, here's my four corners, a dab in the middle for good luck, and then I'm just going to align this up to the right hand edge of my card base, and there we go. Now the only thing that's left is to make a sentiment, which I've done already in advance. I stamped a sentiment and punched it out with a circle punch, and I will likely place that right about here with dimensionals to give it a little bit of height, just to give a little bit of a shadow behind it. And then I just have a bow that I tied really quickly. I will likely either put it under the sentiment or I might even put it on the stocking. I'm just not quite sure yet. So I will finish that card and we will move on to number 2. Similar to the tone-on-tone stamping, this is color-on-color stamping. This is a card that I've already made, and as you can see, there's a different color of stamping back here than the paper. This is on purpose. I wanted to give a little more color, but I wanted to make it still subtle so that it just looks like a fuzzy background, you know, a little bit of texture, a little bit of shadow. So I had this tiny stamp that's got these 3 stars in it. And all I did is I took my Christmas ball and I held it right where I want it. Then I took my stamp and said, I want it to be kind of peeking out from under my ball a little bit. I don't want them all on the outside. I want it to look like it's like flowing from underneath. And then I would just move it away, give it a stamp, and just did that all the way around. So it was, you know, fairly even around my Christmas bulb. And that's where you have color on color stamping. Again, you don't have to have a fancy background. You just have to have a little stamp, a big stamp, and just go to town however you want. That's number 2. My next one, we're going to be doing a different kind of tone-on-tone using Versamark. Now, Versamark is a clear ink. And so what's going to happen, since it's clear, it's going to give the illusion that I've used boho blue ink on this piece of boho blue cardstock and some petunia pop. For this one, it's going to look like I use petunia pop ink. We've got some Calypso Coral, we've got some Tahitian Tide, and lastly some fresh freesia. And by the time I use this Versamark, it's gonna look like they all have their own color of ink stamped on them. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I cut these because I wanna adhere these at an angle. So what I'm gonna do is get my ink out here. I'm gonna start with this one, and I'm going to eyeball it right about here so that I can put some adhesive right about there. Maybe I'll angle it a little bit more. Yeah. And then this one, I want to make sure that I don't go past here. So I'm going to give a little bit of ink across the bottom, across the side. And there we go. And then adhere this one, making sure that my cardstock goes from end to end. Where's my, all right, then I'm going to take this one, put a little bit of ink right here. Adhere down this next one. I think I'm going to go like this a little bit. Come here. Like so. And some Tahitian Tide. And lastly, some fresh freesia. Snug it up, press it down, and there we go. Now I'm going to take my snips. I'm going to turn this over, and being careful not to move this last one that I just adhered. The rest of these are going to be perfectly dry. I'm just going to cut along this edge to get the excess off. Do again at the top or the bottom. This other side. Sometimes you just need to think out of the box. This is a great way to use up your scraps. As long as the scrap colors match each other, then just put them on at an angle, just like this. It'll look fancy, and nobody will ever know that you were just trying to use up your scraps. Okay, there we go. So now I have the base for my card. Clean this up. And now I'm going to take out my Versamark, and I've got two small balloon stamps. I've got one on this side, a smaller one on this side. So I'm just going to start sporadically just stamping these here and there. Take this one upside down. This one sideways. This one's going off of the sheet. And this one too. Then I'm going to go ahead and use this tiny one. And I'm going to start throwing some in between these guys. Turn it. Put another one right there. 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 Didn't do a very good job of doing that one. This one's gonna go right across both pieces. And another one right here. Couple more over here. And a last one. I have it popping off the page right there. All right, there we go. So now as you can see, the Versamark, which is clear, has now made it look like there's blue ink on the Tahitian Tide. It looks like Calypso Coral on top of the Calypso Coral cardstock, Petunia Pop, the Fresh Freesia, the Boho Blue. It just looks like you have all these different color of inks and you just have one ink color. This is very versatile. Now, the Versamark does take a while to dry, so I would be very, very careful if you're continuing to work on this project. You might want to wait, I don't know, 10 minutes before you really start fussing too much. What I'm going to do is I've got this little bag of larger balloons, and I'm just kind of going to go through here and pick some out. I want to make a bouquet of 3 balloons. I'll add a little bit of twine onto them so that it looks like it's balloon strings, and I will probably use that for my focal, put a sentiment, and I'm done. How easy was that? That is number 3. Now I'm going to bring in, get these out of the way. I'm going to bring in my Simply scoreboard. And what this is a board. As you can see, it has lots of little grooves in it. And this is so that you can score your paper, whether you're going to be scoring your cardstock in half, or in this case, we're going to be doing a lot of scoring to give this card some actual texture. So this particular Simply scoreboard comes with a scoring tool. This happens to be a double-ended a score tool. And it has a fatter end and a skinnier end. You have to decide which end is going to work best for you. If you are heavy-handed, you may want to use the larger end when you're scoring so that you don't puncture the paper. I like to use the thinner end because I'm not heavy-handed, but I do have to be careful that I press enough because you don't want to be scoring and then it slips off and goes, into another lane. So you really have to go slowly, precisely, and work with a little bit until you can get the exact pressure down to where it's not going to puncture and it's not going to slip off. Up at the top here, there's grooves at every 1/8 inch. So I'm going to start an 1/8 inch in, and I'm just going to press it down very slowly. I'm going to go to the bottom. I'll do it again, the next 1/8 inch. Keep on going. As you can see, this is going to give a nice texture that you can add to your background and do not need a embossing folder or an embossing machine. So I think you have the idea now, but as you can see, look at that nice texture on there. And all you did is add a bunch of scores. So let me show you. This is the card that I made with it. So I scored from top to bottom. I added baby across here, some gems. I adhered the white piece to this blue piece, and then I wrapped the ribbon around the white and the blue. And the reason why you don't see the ribbon on the inside is because I then adhered the blue to my white card base. So you've got your white scored part and your focal images, and then I adhere that to the blue. This ribbon is going around the white and the blue before I adhere it all down to the card base. You can see that really nice texture. And this is really easy because you could even have most of your card covered up. Maybe you have a piece that's this big and there's only this much of it sticking out. That's still beautiful. Or you can have it like this one where a lot of it is seen. It's up to you, but I would just go ahead and play around with that technique. You could even turn your cardstock and get your angles going a different direction. Maybe you just want the lines at one end, two corner ends. Maybe you want them 1/4 of an inch apart. Maybe you want them an inch apart. Go ahead and play with that and make some beautiful designs. That is number 4. Here we have this one. This is going to give the appearance of an embossing folder. And what I've done is I've taken and punched out some pieces of greenery, if you will, in the same exact color as my cardstock. And then what I'm going to do is adhere these right on top of the same colored cardstock. Put a dot and a dot and a dot. And a little bit right there. And I'm going to have this one going off the page a little bit. So another one. Put a tiny dot. And a tiny dot. And put that right here. I'll take this one. We'll do the same thing. Again, I'm going to have this one hanging off the edge. Put a dot, 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 and put it right there. Now I've gone ahead and I've adhered all of the other pieces, and I'm going to do just like we did with that other card. Is I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to cut any of these tails sticking out. Oops. There we go. So now take a look at this. Doesn't that look like it's an embossed piece of paper? And all you did is you used pieces that were the exact same color as your cardstock. It looks just like it's been embossed. It has a little bit of texture to it, a little bit of shadowing. Then from here, add your focal image, your embellishments, your sentiment. You're good to go. In this case, I've cut this a little bit short, a little bit smaller than my base. So I am just going to take this, add it to this base about 1/8 of an inch from the edges. I particularly like to add a background frame to my cards. I just think it gives that little extra pop. So I always cut my card front about 1/4 of an inch narrower and shorter so that I can put it on a different color piece of cardstock to frame it. And there you go. Decorate and boom, there's card number 5. I will do this later. I have my sentiment here. Again, I will pop that up on dimensionals. And I have a bow that I've made out of some twine. And I don't know, I'm probably going to maybe, I don't know, I'm going to pop that somewhere at a later date. Now for number 6. I saved the best for last. We're going to be using a positioning tool. We're going to be using some white craft paint and some soft suede ink. And we're going to be using a piece of beige cardstock. So this is a stamp positioner. And I have a Stamparatus, but right now that is being used because my stamps are already placed for my next crafting class that I have coming up. So I didn't want to have to remove those and get those lined up again because it's going to be some two stamp stamping. So I've chosen this one. And what I want to do is just have this cardstock, and I'm just going to simply have this image in the corner very lightly, add a sentiment, and I'm pretty much ready to go. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to place this in the corner here. And what I want to do is bring it out and down a hair. And what I mean by this is, let me bring this up and show you. Let's see, can you see that? That's just a hair. And I think if you really even wanted to, you could put a piece of cardstock next to these tines, put this piece up against it, bring it down a hair, like that, and that should give you about the hair that you need. And then I'm going to take these magnets, put them on here so that everything stays into place. Again, teeny tiny bit, just a hair over. And you'll see what that's about when we get going here. I'm going to take my soft suede ink and I'm just going to stamp my stamp up. Now, typically you're going to be using your stamp and stamping it this way, but because it's a large stamp, I find it so much easier just to stamp it this way. Now I do have ink on the edges, so I have to be very careful not to press this too hard so I don't get any of that on my card. Can't promise anything, but we're going to try. So I'm going to lay this down. There's holes around the edges and pegs, and I put those right into the pegs. And then I'm just going to press down, lift it up, and there's my first image. Again, I'm going to bring out my chamois, and I'm going to clean my stamp here. It's great. Look at how quickly it takes the ink off. This is so great. I can't talk about it enough. Now we are done with this. Now I'm going to open up my white craft paint. White is another one that doesn't dry quickly at all. This one you may have to wait 24 hours if you're going to be doing any more work to the top of your card. Again, I am going to take some white and get that ready to stamp. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this cardstock and I'm now going to put it up in the corner so that it's up at the top all the way over to the left completely. Put my magnets back on here, and then I'm going to put this back into these pegs, drop it down, press it on there. You don't see anything yet, But I'm going to do this about 5 times, and you're going to see this come to life very shortly. There's 2. You can kind of start seeing it. You should start seeing a shadow. The dark will be a shadow. I'm going to go put this back on here. Press. Add some more. Press. And you can keep going. You can do this however many times you want. I'm going to show you what 5 times looks like with the color that I have on my base. Take a look at this. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but doesn't that look embossed? You see a hint of a shadow on there, and it looks like it's raised up off of the paper, and it's not. You and I both know this is just stamped on there, but look how gorgeous that looks. It really gives some texture, some height, some shadow, just what you want. And look how simple was that. You just had a piece of cardstock, a large stamp, a fairly light color, and white. You're done. Now all you have to do is stamp a sentiment or stamp it on a separate piece and adhere that with some dimensionals. Simple. You might even want to take some twine and maybe wrap it around here a couple of times and adhere it to the back. Whatever it is, that is pretty much ready to go. But look how that looks. So folks, that is number 6. Again, give that some time to dry because pigment ink always takes longer to dry. Other inks, as soon as you stamp them down on cardstock, they are dry. So there we go. Here we have this one, which colored cardstock on colored cardstock. We've got our Versamark on different colors. We've got the score, the scored card base. We've got this one, which is color on color stamping. We've got this one that we just did. And lastly, this one here. Color, tone on tone color here. Here we have color on color cardstock, Versamark, which is going to match any color of cardstock that you're using it on. Decorate as you want. Same thing with this one. You'll have to use a stamp positioner so that you can get that really bit of a hair difference so that it can show, give that depth. Decorate your score marks, your color on color, your tone on tone. Decorate, and you're ready to go. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this. Now you can go back to your card stash or your craft stash, and even though you don't have any designer paper, pattern paper, embossing machine, embossing folder, you can still decorate your card to look just like you had all of those things just by doing a little bit of unique stamping and or in this case by punching out some shapes. Those shapes could be anything, guys. You could have tiny circles, for heaven's sakes. You could just do any kind of a shape on this to adhere and make it look like that's an embossed piece. Okay, so again, I hope you enjoyed this. If you are interested in any of these products that I shared, like my chamois that I'm really fond of, maybe the scoreboard, any of the inks, any of those things, I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Just reach out to me if you want to order anything, or you can check my website, which is down in the link below, and you can shop over there and check out some of the other things that I have in my online store. Okay, guys, thanks again for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Okay, bye-bye.